Brahmanda Purana, Part 5, Lalita Mahatmya, Chapter 35. The preparation of materials of worship in Mahapadmatavi. The footnote says the description of the Mahapadmatavi shows that it is a yogic allegory. It is beyond the great halls of mind, buddhi, intellect. Verse number 24 to 33. Ahankara, ego. Verse number 34 to 40. The sun god. Verse number 41 to 50. The moon god. Verse number 51 to 58. And of Sringara, love, sentiment. Verse number 59 to 69. The last being the most difficult to cross. The waters of tanks, vapis, are stated to be amrita, nectar, ananda, bliss, delight, and and vimasra, vimarsha, discrimination. The whole description suggests that this must be a figurative description of the yogic process to the realization of goddess Lalita, the Chit Shakti. A further point to be noted is the Buddhist influence. The deities Tara, the chief navigator in Amrita Vapi, verse number 12 to 17, and Kurukulla, the chief of boats, Nokeshwari in Vimarsha Vapika, are Buddhist deities adopted in the Lalita cult. Hayagriva said, henceforth we shall recount different chambers of Vapitraya, three tanks, etc. Merely by listening to these, great prosperity can be attained. Within the 1,000 columned enclosure and 7 yojanas away in the great chambers named Manaha, it is wonderfully built and beautified with all kinds of gems and jewels. It has Gopuras, gateways, panels, and bolts as before. The entire space within that chamber enclosure is a nectarine lake. There is a certain rasayana, tonic beverage, by imbibing which yogins and siddhas become very powerful persons. Their bodies become as hard as adamant. They become very wise and intelligent too. That same rasayana has become the water of this lake of nectar. By inhaling its smell alone, one can become the master of beautiful ladies in the form of siddhis. O suppressor of the Vindhya mountain, even without touching it, by inhaling alone, a person gets all his sins destroyed. Along the sides of both the enclosures, on the banks of the Nectarine Lake, there are many small ponds, all squares of sides, half a crosha each. The bottom of the lake is 4 yojanas deep. A series of steps in the lake are wonderfully paved with different kinds of gems and jewels. The swans and cranes in the lake are golden and gem colored. Moving slowly and gently, the ripples and waves dash against the two banks. By drinking the water therein, O suppressor of the Vindhya mountain, which is full of tonic beverage. The birds get rid of old age and death there. By means of their perpetual chirping, the Karandava, a species of duck birds, appear to be performing the japa of the mantra of great potentiality of goddess Lalita. As the region is entirely covered with numerous ponds, there is no other way of approaching that place without a boat. Moreover, without the permission of Mantrini and Dandanatha, no one can enter the region. There is a great Shakti named Tara working there as the deity in charge of the portals. Tara has many female attendants. They are dark in color like the blue lotus with thousands of gem-set boats. They sport about in the waters of the lake, playing on their lutes, glutes, drums, etc. They go to and fro. They go to and fro between the two banks frequently. The boat women of Tara are crores in number. They are all in their fresh bloom of youth. They dance and repeatedly sing the meritorious glory of the goddess. Some of them have oars in their hands. Some have horns filled with water in their hands. They drink the nectarine water of that lake. They move about in hundreds of rafts and boats. Mother Tara, who is the chief among those Shaktis who row the boats and whose complexion is dark, does not permit even the three-eyed Lord to sail in the waters of the lake without the permission of Mantrini and Dandanatha. The group of Shaktis in charge of the boats and rafts of Tara is very beautiful. They sing and sail about in boats rendered beautiful by means of gems and jewels. At every step they recite instances of the great munificence and exalted state of the Empress. They steadily drink wine in goblets of rubies. In every boat there is a jewel studded abode of fascinating features where they live. Some boats are made and beautified by gold, O sage. Some are made of gems and precious stones. Some boats are in the shape of sharks and crocodiles. Some of them are deer faced. Some boats have leonine faces, and some are elephant faced. Surrounded thus by boats of wonderfully variegated forms, Mother Tara shines splendidly. She possesses her own huge boat, rowing continuously in the waters of the lake, both clockwise and anti-clockwise directions. Tara guards this enclosure. Within the enclosure of Manahashala, chamber of mind, and 7 yojanas away from it is the enclosure well known as Buddhishala, chamber of intellect. It is 4 yojanas in height. The entire space in the middle of that chamber is occupied by Anandavapika, the lake of bliss, the great divine wine rendered highly fragrant by the Bahula, Mimoshops, Elangi flowers, and having the luster of heated gold, serves the purpose of water in that river. The depth, etc., of the lake of bliss are recounted as before. The structure of the series of steps, etc., and the nature and features of the birds, everything is as before. By frequently drinking the water therein, viz., wine, the Shaktis stationed on its banks become mad with inebriation and play about. They become excessively red in their faces due to intoxication. The goddess Varuni herself is the official in charge of the fleet of boats. They call her Suddhamalini and also Amriteshwari. She is surrounded by an army of Shaktis stationed in the boats studded with gems and jewels. By her mere glance, she makes the three worlds perfectly inebriated. She resembles the midday sun in refulgence. Her cheeks become red on account of intoxication. Her tresses are exquisitely embellished with garlands of parijata flowers with which they are tied. She holds the goblet filled with wine where lotus flowers move to and fro. In another vessel set with jewels, she holds well cooked piece of meat. Thus, Varuni, the leader of the fleet of boats, shines only at the bidding of Mantrini and Dandanatha does she give permission to anyone to cross the lake and not otherwise, even in the case of the three-eyed Lord. Then within the great enclosure of intellect and 7 yojanas away from it is Ahamkara Mahashala, the great chamber of ego. It is fitted with Gopuras as before. The entire ground, O sage, between those two chambers is occupied by the pond named Vimarshavapika, the lake of deliberation and consideration. It is in the form of the nectar of the nerve Sushumna or of the Sushumna ray of the sun. Within the great yogins in their inner mind there is wind filling it. In the hollow of the bone like nerve Sushumna there is the most excellent Amrita, nectar. The same is the water in that lake. O ascetic, it is remembered that the series of steps from the banks, birds, fleet of boats, everything is as before. The gentle lady, the deity of the boats, is well known as Kurukulla. She has dark complexion and features like Tamala tree. She wears dark colored bodice. She is surrounded by other deities of boats, all on a par with herself. Her hands are placed on a jewel set oar. She is perpetually in a state of intoxication. Seated in her jewel studded boat, O sage, she moves about all round. The depth of water in the lake is mentioned as before. Within the enclosure of ego and 7 yojanas away from it is the Surya Bimba Mahashala, the great chamber of the solar disk. It is 4 yojanas in height. The space in the middle of that chamber is filled with Kuru Vindakas, the fragrant grass called Cuperus rotundus, formerly the rising Aruna, charioteer of the sun, was greater than the sun in refulgence. The great goddess Lalita stays there where the early morning sunlight spreads. The sun performed a great penance and secured that luster. The footnote says N does not mean Lalita, it simply states, O sage, there is always the spreading of the early morning light. The groups of planets, the constellations and stars, all these performed penance here and attained the power of illuminating the worlds. Martanda Bhairava is present there, O sage, in 12 different forms. He is accompanied by Shaktis of fiery refulgence numbering crores. He is Mahaprakasha Rupa, having the form of great radiance. His eyes are pink due to inebriation. He is eagerly engaged in perpetual sports among the groves of Kankola, Piper, Cubeb trees, O suppressor of the pride of the Vindhya mountain. He is wholly absorbed in it. His great Shakti is Mahaprakasha by name. Chakshushmati is another Shakti. The deity Chaya is remembered as another Shakti. The footnote says it is strange that Samgna, the legitimate wife of the sun god, is not mentioned, but her shadow Chaya, whom she left with her husband and escaped till the sun god's luster was modified, is mentioned as beloved Shakti of the sun god from Samgna and Chaya wide VP3, also P, page number 182. Thus, he is surrounded by 3 beloved Shaktis. He continuously repeats the mantras of Lalita Maheshani mentally. He illuminates the sense organs of our devotees and makes them refulgent. He exterminates the dense darkness within and without. There in the region of Balatapodgara, where the early morning rays of the sun spread, Martanda Bhairava shines. Within the great enclosure of solar disk and 7 yojanas away from it is the chamber of lunar disk. It is 4 yojanas in height. It is endowed with gopuras, doorways, panels and bolts or before. The entire space within it is called Chandrika Dwara, the doorway of moonlight. It was here in Chandrika Dwara that the moon god performed a severe penance and attained his splendor and was born of the eye of Atri. Here he stays with the name Somanatha. He has pure form and features. He shines as the destroyer of darkness in all the 3 worlds. He enables the world to function properly. He drinks the nectar of moonlight in gobletfuls. He is surrounded by the Shaktis of 27 constellations. Lord Shashi stays there itself in Chandrika Dwara, always in his full form. He has his own form and features and is devoted of black spots. The moon spends his time there in japas, meditations, eulogies, and hundreds of worships of Lalita, along with Ashwini and others, that is, constellation Shaktis. There are thousands of other Shaktis named Taras. They stay near him. That chamber is filled with them. Within the chamber of moon's disk, and 7 yojanas away from it, is the chamber named Srinagara toilet. It is 4 yojanas in height. It is made of Kaustuha jewels in the form of dressing chambers. In its center, the entire space is called Mahasringara Parikha, moat of great amorous sentiment. Within the encircling Parikha moat filled with Sringara Rasa, the essence of the sentiment of love, there are Sringara Shaktis. They sparkle in their diverse kinds of jewels and ornaments. Hafty with intoxication, they move about in thousand boats. They always worship and serve the flower weaponed Lord Kama, who is also intoxicated and who is seated in his boat. Subject to the control and commands of Lalita, he enchants all the world's entire universe by means of his arrows, beginning with Sammohana, that which fascinates and deludes. Those who are enchanted by his power go to the region of Mahapadmatavi in order to honor and worship Lalita. They take up and assure pure guise and garments. They are full of devotion to Lalita. With great concentration in their minds, they proceed towards the region of Padmatavi, park of lotus flowers. But neither suras nor human beings nor the celestial siddhas become competent to go there. But Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesha, who are naturally pure in their minds, go to the region of Mahapadmatavi at her bidding. Men of worldly inclination, those who are blind with passion, those who indulge in wishful thinking and too much of fanciful imagination, men excessively excited, those who are dusty and dirty due to doubtful and indecisive knowledge, men who are deeply immersed in passionate attachments, all these are not competent or clever enough to cross the moat of Mahasringara Parikha, which causes delusion even to the mature people. The officer in charge of Mahasringara Parikha is Smara, god of love, who enchants even the three worlds. Therefore, no one becomes powerful enough to go to Mahapad Matavi after going beyond all his army. that causes fascination and delusion even to the great. Then, within the chamber of Srinagara and 7 yojanas away from it, is the great abode of Chakra Raja named Chintamanigraha, the abode of Philosopher's Stone. The entire ground in its center is embellished with jewels and precious stones. It is called Mahapad Matavi. The footnote says, verse number 71 and onwards are devoted to the description of Mahapadmatavi proper. Here everything is set in a magnified form. Thus the vessels for Arghya in the eastern portion of that chamber are yojanas in dimension. The following gods have maintained the Arghya vessel along with their Kalas or Shaktis to serve the fire god, verse number 79 to 83, with his 10 Kalas, the sun god with his 12 Kalas, verse number 84 to 87, the moon god with his 16 Kalas, verse number 88 to 93, Brahma, verse 94, and Vishnu, verse 95, Rudra, verse 96, Ishvara, verse number 97 to 99, Shankara, verse number 99, with their respective kalas. The description is continued in the next chapter. It bestows all good fortune, exalted grandeur, and great felicity. There are Gopuras in the chambers, beginning with Sringara and ending with Mahakala. O sage, the arrangement of Gopuras in all the 4 directions is like this. It is mentioned that in all the quarters there are altogether 100 Gopuras, O sage. The chambers are splendid, and it is mentioned that they are 25 in number. I shall describe the region of Padmatavi, which extends to 1 yojana and which is the root of all the chambers, O sage. Listen attentively. The footnote says, the idea seems to be this: all the chambers are connected with Padmatavi, the intervals of their joints being 1 yojana each. An intervening space of 6 yojanas is entirely paved and beautified with ratnas, jewels and gems. All round the place there are sthala padmas, dry land lotuses of huge stalks. The stalks are 1 yojana in length, covered with soft thorns. The length of the leaves is equal to the height of 10 palm trees. The filaments of the lotuses have a length equal to the height of 5 talas, palm trees. The pericarps are reputed to be as high as 10 palms. There are many crores and crores of lotuses here. They are very tender and in perpetual bloom. They have very agreeable fresh fragrance and wide petals. O pot-born sage, in the eastern portion of the Mahapadmatavi chamber is the base of the Arghya vessel for materials of worship to venerable persons. It is fiery by nature and a krosha high. It is circular in shape extending to a yojana. It is endowed with 10 kalas, O pot-born sage. All round that base there are Shaktis with blazing bodies. The chief among them is Archies. They are the 10 colors of Vibhavasu, fire god. They have radiant, youthful splendor. They are adorned with different kinds of ornaments. They are gracefully lethargic due to love. They stay all round the fire god in close embrace. The fire god of great glory, who constitutes the base of the Arghya vessel. The following are mentioned as the 10 colors of Vahni. The following are mentioned as the 10 colors of Banhi, the fire god, who stays in the form of the base, viz. Dhumrachis, Ushna, Jwalini, Bishfulingini, Shushrihi, Surupa, Kapila, Havyavaha, and Kavyavaha. The sun god assumes the form of a vessel and occupies that base. The sun god, whose rise is well reputed as the destroyer of darkness of the three worlds. That vessel, constituted by the sun, is 1.5 yojanas in height, and its bottom is a square of length and breadth extending to a yojana each. It is excessively refulgent and radiant. There are 12 kalas of extremely sparkling rays with their bodies in contact with that vessel all round like dolls. They are Tapini. They are Tapini, Tapini, Dhumra, Marichi, Jwalini, Ruchi, Sushumna, Bhogada, Vishwa, Bodhini, Dharini, and Kshama. The Arghya intended for the worship of Lalita is kept in that vessel. It is the cause of great bliss. It is the most excellent Amrita. It contains the extract and essence of all medicinal herbs. It has an extremely agreeable fragrance. It is rendered sweet smelling continuously by never fading blue and white lotuses of very exquisite scent. It is heartily cool and free from impurities. Its desirable, gentle ripples, hundreds in number, add to its grandeur and splendor. It has sparkling appearance with pleasing sounds arising from the moving ripples. It is said to be nectarine arghya constituted by the colors of the moon. There are many tiny boats made of jewels and gems. The splendid colors of the moon, in their fresh youthful bloom, occupy those boats and sport about. The following are the colors, digits of the moon god: Amrita, Manada, Pushna, Tushti, Pushti, Rati, Dhriti, Shashini, Shashini, Chandrika, Kanti, Jyotsna, Shrihi, Priti, Angada, Purna, and Purnamrata. These are the colors of the moon god. They are in full bloom of fresh youth. Their faces are always beaming with laughter. The following colors of Brahma play there, viz. Pushti, Riddhi, Sthiti, Medha, Kanti, Lakshmi, Dyuti, Dhriti, Jara, and Siddhi. The footnote says Sthira in N, the list of God Brahma's kalas in N is as follows: Shrishti, Buddhi, Smriti, Medha, Kanti, Lakshmi, Dyuti, Sthira, Sthiti, and Siddhi. Hari's kalas are as follows: Sthiti, Jara in N, Palini, Shanti, Ishwari, Tati, Rati in N, Kamika, Varada, Ladini, Priti, and Dirgha. The following kalas of Rudra are also stationed there: Tikshna, Rodri, Bhaya, Nidra, Tandra, Kshut, Krodhini, Trapa, Kriya in N, Utkari, and Mrityu. The kalas of the Lord Ishvara are mentioned as four in number with the colors yellow, bright, white, pink, and pale white. They are Ishvara's kalas. Shankara's kalas are following 16: O suppressor of the Vindhya mountain, Nivritti, Pratishtha, Vidya, Shanti, Indira, Deepika, Rechika, Mochika, Para, Sukshma, Sukshmamrata, Jnanamrata, Vyadhini, Sukshmakala, Vyapini, and Vyomarupika. These Shaktis sport about there. Thousands of Vidyas sit themselves in Rudra's boats and in the form of Shaktis and play about here and there. They have been employed by Parameshtin to cleanse and purify the Arghya. After drinking that nectarine Arghya, the Shaktis are always elated. The Shaktis staying in Mahapad Matavi and Mahachakra always drink this Arghya when they are fresh and rendered fragrant. They fill thousands of gem set pots and crores of golden pots with that great nectarine Arghya and distribute in among others. The Shaktis attending upon those who stay in the abode of Chintamani are proud and intoxicated. They offer this Arghya to Anima and other Shaktis. Thus, the preparation and other arrangements of Arghya in the eastern portion of the chamber Mahapadmatavi have been mentioned. Other things also in this matter will be mentioned afterwards.